Hello, Tiger fans. Thanks for joining us for a new season of Tiger Timeout here on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Matt Payton in the WLCU studios as we take a look around Lady Tiger and Tiger basketball, starting, of course, on the women's side with the head coach Ginger High Colvin as Campbellsville University gets set to start up the season. Coach, another one upon us. I know when they end, they seem forever away. You blink, and here you are. It's basketball season.
You know, my birthday's tomorrow, and seasons are like my birthdays. They start rolling around a little bit faster now. And but
take the good with the bad.
That's right. And the good thing about it is there's no mention of the COVID. There's no mention of restrictions. You know, if you think about it, last year at this time, we were still wearing masks. We're still up in the air about a lot of those things. So this year, I'm just so excited to get this started and hopefully have restriction-free and just be able to go play.
You know, last season obviously didn't end up the way that you guys had hoped. You make that trip home and you kind of recalibrate and get set with the off season. What's that look like for you? What's the first few weeks, month or so? How do you kind of recharge that battery?
The first thing is you're not in the season when you're in the season because you finish one game and you're already thinking about that next game. So I don't think you really have time to appreciate the things that went well for you. You know, you're just thinking about the things that you have to improve and how you work on. And we were very disappointed with how we played against Dort. I don't think that is really how we were. We overachieved just about the entire season. Found out obviously Bailey had played on a broken foot most of the time, and so it was a tough loss for us. It was a Sweet 16 loss, but it was a tough loss. We didn't play our best basketball. We'd played really well up until Dort, you know, all through the conference tournament and then the 2 opening round games. I was super pleased, but, you know, it finally just caught up with us, some injuries and, you know, with Lexi breaking her hand and a lot of those things. But, you know, you go back and you look at those things and you just try to figure out what do we need to be better, how do we need to be better, what do we need to add. And we were fortunate that we had a really good core back. And I'm not, you know, I've told you this a million times over, I don't watch losses. I do try to figure some things out, but I don't go through and watch the whole game. I just know that what we needed to build on, and that's where we worked at it.
And you said, you know, goodbye to a few Lady Tigers, a handful, you know, Madison Shepard and Gracie Thompson, 2 young ladies that never took the floor for you last year. And then, of course, Faith and Lexi Lake and Ashley McGeorge. And the Mid-South Conference threw out a watch list. There's a few Lady Tigers that they said the nation needed to be on notice and keep an eye on. And Courtney Pritchett, one of those, Bailey Pedigo as well, and then Lauren Lee, your sophomore point guard. Those are 3 young ladies that you guys are going to rely on heavily this year. They are experienced. You know, you take Courtney Pritchett, in her case, she'll be a grandma by the time she leaves here. She's going to put in plenty of years at Campbellsville University, but that's a really good triumvirate to kind of build around.
Yeah, that's 3 of the kids that are what our program stands for. They're great kids on the court. They're great kids off the court. They love the game, and they just play the game with their minds as much as anything. They're very smart, very dedicated, and they're great leaders. They're easy to follow.
We'll touch on this roster as we move throughout. I know next week you don't have any games, so it'll give us a little extra time to comb through the roster on the women's side, so we won't spend a ton there. But let's talk about some of these Lady Tigers that we're going to hear this opening weekend. Obviously, we talked about those 3 there, but let's touch on the post position. You have Caitlin Wilkes coming back. She and Ashley McGeorge proved to be an outstanding tandem a year ago with Ashley graduating. You knew you were on the lookout for somebody to kind of fit that void, and you go a little west, further west than you normally go, the Midwest.
A little out of our zone. Yeah, we brought Kayla Luby in from Concordia, Nebraska, and she transferred in, and man, she's just been superior. We love everything Kayla brings to the table, and she's just going to be a great 1-2 punch with Caitlin Wilkes. And Caitlin worked so hard this summer, and as you know, Caitlin had transferred in last year, and she's just really transformed herself and is quicker. She's stronger, and she's very confident right now. And that is just Brett Sowell is our new assistant coach, and he comes in and practices and guards against them, and I think he's probably as in shape as anybody right now because he's having to go get up against those 2. So we're really excited about our post game this year.
And Luby is someone that I think maybe something that we haven't seen in a few years. She'll step out and shoot it, and she's got a little more range than maybe we've seen out of that 5 spot in a few years. And of course, Caitlin with her soft hands around the rim. Kayla has a nice game around the rim. They're really interchangeable.
They are, and Caitlin can step out and shoot it a little bit as well. And last year she shot a mid-range shot, and I told her as she walked by that I wasn't in love with it. But we've come to a meeting in the middle now, and she is shooting the ball, and she can shoot the ball. So both of them can step out a little bit, and that's nice to have. But yeah, we're super excited about both of those kids. When you've got somebody like Courtney Pritchett that passes the ball from the 4 spot, the way she passes the ball, they're going to have a good time, I think, this year.
And a few other young ladies that have kind of, in some cases, you look at Elizabeth Bertram and Maddie Nally, they've kind of waited a little bit and had to, buy their time. Maddie Boyle got chances last year with Madison Shepard's injury. Maddie Boyle was pressed into some more action and different things, and obviously that experience will help her. But those are 3 young ladies that you're going to rely on in a varying number of ways.
For sure. Those kids, Elizabeth Bertram and Maddie Nally stayed on campus this summer and worked really hard and transformed themselves, and just really, I think once you commit to that physically, you mentally become a little bit tougher. And Maddie Nally obviously is very long. We love that about her. And Bert is very aggressive defensively, and we love that about her. And then Maddie Boyle has that experience coming from last year. So it's a really good 3 kids to have to throw in there. And then obviously Sarah Sutton is somebody that we expect a lot out of this season.
Yeah, and we'll touch on Sutton a bit more when we get back here. We'll step away, take a timeout, come back and look at the schedule, look ahead for the Lady Tigers as they begin their season here this weekend. Stay with us on Tiger Timeout.
The family's visit to the forest inspired a beautiful question. Mother, mother, am I a tree? You tell me to stand tall. You tell me to stay rooted. I think I am a tree. My child, of course you are. But what kind of tree will you be? The kind to hug or the kind to climb? Doesn't matter what you choose, so long as you choose to be a tree that's kind.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Tiger Timeout here on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. If you're joining us on our YouTube page, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks for tuning in on 88.7 The Tiger as well as local cable in the Campbellsville area. Matt Payton here with the head coach of Lady Tiger basketball, Ginger High Colvin. They go on the road this weekend. Get ready for a couple of games down in McKenzie. Before we touch on that, Coach, Sarah Sutton, we mentioned before the break, this kid,
wow.
If there was no bad luck, she wouldn't have any luck. But here she is. She's a grinder. She's trying. She's doing everything she can. She's been working through stuff since really COVID. She had COVID a year and a half ago at this point, almost 2 years ago, and it's been one thing after another. Listen, if you're a Lady Tiger fan, root for Sarah Sutton.
Right,
I mean, she deserves good things.
Pray for Sarah Sutton. Yes, she. I think COVID. I think when you talk about Sarah, you talk about COVID. She had COVID, the first string of COVID, and it really drained her. I think her mom told me that and Sarah played high school as a young player, maybe missed a practice because she cut her finger one time. Never for sickness, never for anything like that, never for an injury, other than the time that she cut her finger. And COVID hit her. She had debilitating headaches. So we worked for basically a year and a half. They finally found out that Botox, crazy enough, helps her headaches. Get that over with. I really think when she rolled back into campus this year, she had the second round of COVID. And when that happened, it created some heart rate issues. And with anything, with our trainer and with Sarah's family, you want that checked out. And she's been checked out thoroughly. We just found out this week that everything's good with her heart. There's just some heart rate issues. There's a syndrome called POTS syndrome that is associated with COVID and associated with the rapid heartbeat. Crazy, just like you say, it is just crazy. And Sarah's a real talent for us. She's a pure shooter and somebody that we really want to get on the floor. And hopefully, I think we're over this hump, and I hope it's the last hump with Sarah that we have to get over, and because we want her on the floor and want her being able to contribute.
Yeah, for people that don't know, you talked about the headaches in the national tournament 2 years ago. She played through a migraine, wasn't herself. If you go back and watch that game after the fact, it made a lot more sense. Yeah. So, you just want to see shoot and suit and get back on the right track. And hopefully that happens down in McKenzie. This has become a staple for you guys in your early season schedule. Chris Nelson does a terrific job with the Wildcats. He invites you down. University of Health and Sciences, Pharmacy of St. Louis. Right. They've got a kid that can really fill it up.
Crazy name. You can't even hardly find their name anymore. But, they've got the nation's leading scorer from last year. Her previous game this season, she had 38. We've watched a lot of her and tried to figure her out. She's phenomenal, and she's going to be a tough guard for us for sure. But it's not just her. They have two posts that can really pass the ball. They have another kid that shoots the ball extremely well. So it's not one of those where you think it's going to be a quote-unquote pushover, just go get your feet wet kind of game. It's a game we have to go in prepared to play.
And the Eutectics, quite an interesting mascot for science, health, pharmacy. It's a mouthful.
Well, if you're going to be a pharmacist, you have to know those names,
right?
You got to
get all that in. And then a familiar opponent in Brescia on Saturday. Brescia's a team that you've seen generally in this classic. They've been to the PAL a few times over the last couple of years. And that's a game that I looked at their roster, and they've got a lot of those same kids back, the Payton twins and some others. They've got some nice players as well.
They played at Lindsay last night, so we have an opportunity to watch them a little bit, and then we'll have an opportunity to watch them on Friday as well. But yes, familiar. They can. I think Lindsay's up tempo a little bit more this year, pressing a little bit more. I've not had an opportunity to watch that game yet, but never anybody to overlook, that's for sure. And
you'll have a bit of time off before you get into conference play on the 17th and 19th. Let's take a look at your non-conference schedule. This year, the NAIA comes down to 28 total games, so you're on the lookout for 6. You found 5. So anybody that is desperate for a game, Ginger High Colvin is just as desperate as you are. Yep. You can see that opening weekend. You'll go to Asbury in the middle of December, and then some warm weather around the holidays, Florida Memorial and St. Thomas down in Miami Gardens, Florida. So that trip around the Christmas holiday has become something that you guys have done. Last year it was Hawaii. This year you'll go to Miami, but you're still on the prowl looking for one more game.
We are. It is insane. It's just been constant phone call. I'll get back to you. It is frustrating to say the least, but we still have maybe one sliver of hope from a team that had somebody to drop them, and that's kind of what our hope is that somebody's going to come up with a game that they need so we can fill that 28 game slot. They dropped us those 2 games, and you just kind of hope that you can get one. And our scrimmage was even dropped. We had a scrimmage scheduled, and they dropped it because they picked up a guarantee game from a Division I. And we always go around Christmas and scrimmage UK's women in that closed scrimmage, so that counts. And it's great for us then, but not. We need something now before we play. So going into that game kind of blind as to what we have for some of the kids that haven't played is a little concerning.
Well, we'll kind of keep up with you guys through Diamond Dave McCulley and the folks at Bethel this weekend with the conflicts between football and then men's basketball in Columbia. We'll have the guys game on Friday evening, the football game on Saturday afternoon, and we'll get with the Lady Tigers on the 17th down in Pulaski, Tennessee. We'll talk to Coach about that next week here. We'll step away, take a short break, come back and visit with the head coach of Tiger basketball, Brent Vernon, here on Tiger Timeout.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
Welcome back to Tiger Timeout here on the Campbellsville University Sports Network. Thanks for joining us this evening. The Tigers get set for action as we transition over the men's side of the basketball court. Thank you for tuning in on our YouTube channel, CU Sports Network. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as I'm joined now by Brent Vernon, entering his 7th season here at Campbellsville University. Coach, the off season, let's start there. What do you do to unplug, unwind? The season is a grind with all of we've come out of COVID protocols and everything that goes into all that. Last year, a bit of a breath of fresh air, but it was still a black cloud kind of hanging over, waiting for something to happen. But what's the off season, the beginning of the off season look like for you?
Well, I mean, there really isn't an off season. You go straight into work, but whenever you can find the downtime, it's for me, it's all family. I mean, you know, both my kids are actively involved in sports, so there's a lot of AU basketball going on. We had some golf going on. But just trying to spend as much time with them as I possibly can, because during the year it's such a grind with my schedule and my wife's schedule and the kids, and as they're playing their seasons, you don't get to see tons of each other. So trying to do as much as that, and then you're always on the recruiting trail trying to find that next piece of the puzzle to try to make this thing continue moving forward for us.
Last summer, recruiting was, you were basically trying to field a whole new roster, a whole new team. This summer, not quite the case. And in fact, by your standards, I feel like you had the hay in the barn pretty early. A few pieces were still trickling in. You were waiting to try to get another guard or maybe two and different things. But most of your team returning. You added a few pieces really early in the recruiting process, and I know that had to lighten the load a little bit over the course of the summer.
Yeah, it was nice. You know, you go back 2 years ago whenever the initial COVID season hit. You know, we as a team, we didn't handle it real well. And so we had a lot of turnover. And as you said, we brought in, I think last year, 11 new guys. And so we were basically starting from bottom ground zero and working our way up. And we made some good strides last year. And this year we had, 7 guys returning, a lot of guys who got a lot of valuable minutes. And I thought we had very good pieces to start. And then the recruiting really did a nice job. We signed 2 high school kids early. You got a nice commitment from Jordan Graham, and then Malik Muhammad jumps in, and so you're really feeling good. And then very late we got 2 more guards in Trayshawn Smoots and Brandon Jackson. That it just really set a tone. And I've already, whenever you resign, and you can't forget Chandler Clements. Obviously, he's done a great job, but he was one that tried to get for some time now. Sort of a roller coaster of a recruitment for the last 2 or 3 years with him, but we finally feel like he's home and where he needs to be.
It was an interesting story, and I know one that we'll touch on throughout the year with Chandler. A couple of former Lady Tigers brothers are now a member of that roster. Chandler Clements, of course, his sister Madison, and Jordan Graham, as you mentioned as well, his sister Alexis, former Lady Tiger. So those, the bloodlines run strong and awfully maroon and awfully gray as those 2 families are concerned. But let's talk about some of the returners. A couple of them made the Mid-South Conference watch list. It's not quite a first or second team preseason type thing, but it gives you an idea of a few guys on each squad that you want to watch for the Tigers. Malachi DeSouza and Jace Wallace, familiar names. And Malik Muhammad, you touched on the big guy there that will be a large presence for you all in the middle. But let's talk about the 2 returners there. Malachi, who you brought in from the Northeast, Jace out of the state of Kentucky, 2 really skilled, talented wings that you'll rely on heavily this year.
Yeah, both of them are coming in the preseason, have been voted on by their teammates as team captains. Jace came in last year from Lexington, Kentucky, but from a junior college, and I thought he had a really good first year. Was voted second team all-conference. Did a nice job all the way through of just trying to help lead us. He's a fierce competitor, really wants to win. Does a great job of setting the example of what we have to do day in, day out. Really studies the game of basketball. It's one of those things. This summer we were in constant contact and just really shooting different ideas off of each other. And it's really good to have somebody like that who just not only likes to play but just loves the entire game. And then Malachi, you look at him, also a second team all-conference performer last year. First semester was a little up and down. I was trying to figure him out. He was trying to figure me out. I think, getting a taste of what the Mid-South was and what NAI was, sometimes it jumps up on people. But I thought once we came back from Christmas, he did a great job, a total 180. and really had a great second semester for us. And we're just hoping he can build off of that, and those two can continue to have the year like they did last year, but a little better, and just continue to produce for us.
Malachi and Malik Muhammad, two guys that seniors playing their final season of college basketball. Malik's a guy who's been around a little bit. He's been to a couple different Division I stops, probably most famous from his time on the Netflix documentary Last Chance U. I guess that'll be some homework for me still. I've got to make sure I check that out. But a really good young man, a nice young man. He's actually working for us here at the Mass Comm department. And, talk me through his skill set and what he brings, what Tiger fans can look forward to.
Well, first, I think you said it best, just a fine young man. It was a joy to recruit him. He wasn't one of these that, I want to make sure I'm starting. He wants to play, but he also wants to earn it. So it was really good building that relationship with him. But, we thought we were getting a big-time rim runner, elite athlete, going to be a shot blocker. We were a little unsure talking to coaches where his offensive skill set was. And then we see him live once we get started, and it's really sort of changed our theory. He does a lot of the first things we said well, but a really nice post presence. Very good around the rim offensively, more than just a dunker like people had said, as a nice left and right hand hook. We're going to get him a lot of touches this year. Just very excited about what he brings to the table and his IQ out there playing. He's somebody that I think could really have a big year and help us really catapult up the standings.
The Tigers open up the season this weekend. They'll be over at Lindsey Wilson, short trip. They'll take on Rio Grande on Friday evening. Saturday afternoon, Baptist Bible College. We'll step away, continue to comb through the roster. We'll look at those two matchups as well. Stay with us here on Tiger Timeout.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
One final segment here of Tiger Timeout as we get ready to tip off basketball season. Maybe our favorite season across the Bluegrass is basketball season, of course. The Lady Tigers in action this weekend. The Tigers as well in the studio here with Brent Vernon. Coach, we combed through some of the roster a moment ago. Let's kind of break it down a little more by position here. Some names that we haven't talked about, but we are going to get very familiar with quickly. Trayshawn Smoots, a transfer guard. You liked him so much you brought in his cousin as well, Brandon Jackson. Keyston Brown, a familiar name. Javon Smith, a young man that we got glimpses of last season, unfortunately injured. That guard position for you, throwing Cam Willis in there. I know he's made a big impression on you in camp and different things. That guard position seems to be a really a strong suit for your team, especially throwing Jace Wallace's ability to play there as well. Yeah,
I feel really good about it. I'll start with Keyston, our third team captain, again voted on by the guys, but he had a really good offseason. Has come in, is really shooting the ball well, and again, just knowing the system of what we're trying to do a year into it, he's just been miles ahead of a lot. Really fierce competitor and has a bad taste in his mouth from last year. So he's had a great start to the preseason and ready to get going. Trayshawn Smoots, he's a combo guard from out west. Actually had a little bit of inside connection with Jalen Coates, former player here, and recruited him a lot this summer. He's a grad transfer from Northern Colorado, can really shoot the basketball, high IQ. Been a little hampered by some injuries early on, so we got to make sure we get him healthy, but could really, really help us on the offensive end and just getting our offense to click and run a little bit more smoothly. I think somebody that all of our fans are just going to enjoy watching is Javon Smith. He was really coming into his own in practices last year and then come back from Christmas, an unfortunate injury where he had to have surgery, missed about 9 months of any kind of competition. Got cleared right before we got going, but he has just really taken off, and we're so excited about what he's going to bring, not only this year, but for the remaining 3 years he has. Brandon Jackson, again, just being behind from being a late sign and not knowing what we're doing. Very good player, though. Point guard, can really guard the ball. Just has to understand some of our defensive principles a little bit better. And then, we talked about Jace. He's going to be a little bit of everywhere. He can play the 1 through 4 for us and will at different times. So with Jace, again, just being the leader that we need him to be, I expect big things from all of them.
You look in the interior, obviously Malachi DeSouza can give you a little bit of inside out. But, Jordan Graham, who can play some of that wing spot, he's a freshman eligibility-wise. He'll have gray hair by the time he graduates at this rate, but he's going to be a guy that you're counting on for minutes. Chandler Clements in the post, Jay Milburn, a freshman. Then you get the returner like Jarius Key,
Right.
who is going to be a big part of things for you. Malik Muhammad as well. And then Zach Travis, another freshman that kind of fits in there as a hybrid as well.
Well, you said it, Malachi and Jace and Jordan, they're really going to fit in roles of 2 through 4. We can do a lot of switching on the perimeter. We're a very hybrid team when it comes to that, but having the versatility to play guys with size, all of them 6'4" and 5" or taller, really, really helps. You look at our post, Jarius, because of unfortunate injuries last year, had to play nothing almost but a 5, and now he goes into his regular position at a 4. He's really done a nice job this last 3 weeks. Just understanding now more of what we need from him. Can be an elite defender and a big-time rebounder, and his offense will come as he just continues to get better with that. Chandler Clements, 2 years ago, was at Bethel University in our league, averaged 18 and 8, and can really score the basketball. Don't know how often he's been made to defend, and we're really working on that, because if he can get a little better defensively, it's going to be hard to always keep him off the floor, because he can really put the ball in the basket. Jay Milburn, been really, really happy with the freshman. Obviously, everybody's known Jay around here for a long time, and it's good to see him back home. Had a great senior year at Campbellsville last year and is back at CU. And, again, a lot of history there with him. But he's done a great job, had a great summer just working on his own, getting up shots, and is really pushing these upperclassmen and trying to get as many minutes as a freshman can, where it's hard to do at our level. But I think everybody's going to be thrilled to see what he's put in. Then, like you said, Malik Muhammad, we're just very excited about what he brings. Zach Travis, you can fill him in with the Jordan. Those guys are 2-3, strong, can really defend, plays hard. I want to sit there without jinxing. I think we have as much depth as I've had since I've been here. You may have a top 2 or 3 that sort of stand out, but then I think 4 through 9, 10, 11, you could flip a coin about which days who's going to have the better day, and I think that's what makes a good team, just having that depth to rely on.
And it's, these guys, we're going to talk about them all year long. We'll kind of close with your thoughts on this weekend. Rio, a former Mid-South Conference school that you'll see Friday evening. Baptist Bible's a team that had some success a year ago. No slouches out of the gate. Coach Stark says, hey, you want to participate in this thing, and no gimmies over there at the bigger sports center.
Yeah, and this first weekend's always you sort of go in blind. I mean, Rio's going to have 2 games under their belt where we have not had any. They return from Shiloh Blevins, who 2 years ago was the player of the year in the league. Mickey Todich, who was the leading scorer for him last year. They really have good pieces coming back. They shoot the ball well. Veteran team, so we're really going to have to be aware of them, but also the newcomers where you don't know much about. And then Baptist Bible, NCCAA Division I national champions last year. I don't care what level you play at, when you're a national champion, that speaks volumes of their program. So we're going to really have our work cut out for us. Obviously, playing a neutral site, anytime you're away from home, it makes it a little more difficult. So even though it's just down the road, we're on the road, and we've got to be prepared and ready, and back-to-backs are never easy early in the year. So it's time to get ready and go out and get some wins.
Coach, nice to be back in these chairs.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Good luck this weekend. The Tigers in action on Friday evening to open the season. Rio Grande, 7 Eastern. The start time coverage begins 6:45 on 88.7 The Tiger. I'll be there at the Biggers Sports Center. A special thanks to Coach Vernon for joining us this week, as well as the head coach of Lady Tiger basketball, Ginger High Colvin. We'll see you next time on Tiger Timeout.